Hi, welcome back to my decorating series. We're going to go inside, go to the 20th floor, and begin our restaurant. So this is the entrance to the restaurant, and it is called Chez Lilith because Remy's daily quest always says, one day you'll have your own restaurant. And because my character's name is Lilith, it was Chez Lilith. So as soon as I started this series, this was one of those, entire floors, not just a room, that I knew was going to be somewhere in the build. And because when I was growing up, there was a restaurant in town that had one of those not rooftop, I guess it was like the top floor dining rooms. It was like the most romantic, how when you're a teenager and like you romanticize what dates might be like, this was the place to go. So I knew I wanted to put it on the top floor. So it has been waiting for me since I began this series almost a year and a half ago. And here we are. So I spend a lot of time planning out the space on this floor because I knew I didn't need it to be big, but it did need to accomplish a couple of things. It needed to be a welcoming space, an entrance to a restaurant. It needed to lead you to the dining area, but it also needed to have access to the other two rooms, which, spoiler alert, will be service areas. So I knew I wanted, a place for like a podium, a place for maybe coats, a seating area, and then also kind of an access hallway. But the reason this space took me so much to puzzle out is because of these rugs and the beams. The rugs in particular, because there's only so many configurations I can do to make it look good and make sense while leading from the doorway that comes, like the main doorway into this floor, but also then over to the restaurant entrance. So I resized this room a couple of times and I try and puzzle out these carpets a few times. I try and puzzle out the beams to kind of make the space make sense for the entryway. But then also I was very concerned about the space for the hallway that the service staff would end up needing to use if you were, if this was a real restaurant and people really had to go back and forth between those areas, you would want space. And it took me a while to get over kind of my preconceived ideas about how much space I really needed to leave for that hallway. This is not reality. This is not, OSHA's not going to come in here and say this is not up to code. So I do end up sacrificing a little bit of width for the hallway because I would have had to make the room a lot bigger and I really didn't want to do that. So I end up sacrificing a little bit of that hallway room a little bit later, but I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I want to have the coat closet area. I really liked the idea of having angled beams, like an angled entryway into it, but it made the puzzling out a little bit more difficult. So I gave up on that idea. I can't remember. Yep, there I am. Still trying to make it work. Still trying to figure out if I can just, squeeze it in there. It just looked kind of interesting. And I do like to play around with changing up the shapes of the spaces in these rooms because I've mentioned it in past builds where I just get a little burnt out on a box made of boxes, which is what it feels like a lot of the time. But in the end, square and rectangle shapes do tend to be easier to puzzle out. And because I had to shrink the room, well, I didn't have to shrink the room. I chose to shrink the room. But because I chose to shrink the room, I do end up just going ahead and going back to the basics of making it a square and rectangle shapes kind of situation. And I do realize that I do need to go onto the carpet with the beams. It doesn't make as much sense, architecturally. I don't think that's how things would work. You wouldn't build a wall over a carpet, but for our purposes, again, kind of going back to working with what we have, it made sense to do that, and then I could cover up a significant portion of the carpet using the Wanderer's cabinets on the other side of the beam wall. And so now we get to start messing with, the little details. The walls, floors, and ceiling help tie the room, start to tie the room together a little bit better. And then I'm also trying to repeat some things that were in other spaces. I was specifically thinking about the lobby space and, just some of the other builds that we have done for the hotel to make the choices for me for, like the counters and the plants and colors. And of course, I still love using these lanterns. I'm really glad that I went for a more warm reds and browns kind of tone across the board in the hotel spaces. They weren't all this stuff, but a lot of the public facing spaces were a little bit more this direction. And I'm glad it went that way instead of kind of a cold metal, modern leather. While those kind of spaces are nice and are generally considered to be luxurious or, more high end, they really aren't my vibe. And not to say this style is not high end or can't be perceived as high end as well. But I'm just really glad that it went this direction. I had no idea that's where we were going when we started. I think the lobby really kicked it off. But I love getting to use those little window seating things. The only complaint I have is you can see a little bit of the floor through the carpeting that's right in front of it. But I haven't had a chance to use that particular window seat yet. And I really did want to stick some kind of bench or, sofa or something in here because, it's fairly typical for restaurants to have a place to sit and wait if you're meeting somebody at the restaurant. So I really wanted to put something over there. And then I had almost forgotten that I have just recently gotten some new coat hanger umbrella stand things from Lady and the Tramp. Now, Cruella's stuff is a little bit more of that cold metallic modern thing, but the fact that it was black and white are fairly typical to pair with a lot of other things, or fairly easy to pair with a lot of other things. But what really did it was the red. So the black and the red, I think, really worked in the space and made it feel like it still fit, even though it's not wood. Like, it's not quite the right texture of material. But I wanted to change it up and not just put wood in here, so I ended up using a combination of both things. And then I got to use the umbrella stands, which is always fun to use new objects. But now, of course, I'm adding in some lighting, making sure that, final touches are in there, and just, kind of filling it out. I again had to fight myself to keep it simple because I always want to put more things in. But, it has been very helpful to have a specific purpose. Like, this room has a very clear, specific purpose. This is an entryway to a restaurant. You need it to be welcoming. You need it to be, kind of set the tone. And then it also needed to have access for service staff, which that does not need to be complicated. It needs a flooring that looks like it could be maintained. It needs storage, and it needs, just space to move through from one room to the other. So it does help having very clear purposes and knowing exactly what you need the room to function as, to kind of rein in if you also struggle with putting too many things in the space. But I did have to go get more of those carpets. I did not have enough for the space I wanted to use it for. And then, I'm still fussing. I really wanted to put like a little water feature or a little statue or something to change up from that plant that was there, because I used 2 of those plants, but nothing really fit, or it had a footprint that was weird because it's probably a photo thing where you can't actually put it up right next to something else. So a lot of those statues did not work. But in the end, I think I ended up just sticking with that plant, even though there's 2 of them. I think it's fine. And I did want to put one last little touch of something on the counter. I was thinking about like a bowl of mints that I've seen at some restaurants, or fortune cookies, and I decided that the Wonderland cookies were just right. All right, well, let's go inside and check it out. I can't believe we're here. I can't believe we're on the 20th floor. It is crazy to me to think that we have made it this far. And I'm stoked about the direction this whole hotel space is taken. But just kind of, I don't know, coming full circle with not only the idea of doing this series to push myself in the first place, but also all of the different things I've gotten to do on the way, but also getting to one of the first room or floor ideas that I had when I first, really considered doing this series at all. And so it's just, I don't know, it feels really good to get to this point, to feel like I have improved my skills, to hope that I have inspired other people to also do some stuff and get in there and just do it. Even if you're doing one room a week like I've been doing. I love the lanterns. I love how this feels, where it's supposed to be like the nighttime lighting with the glow of the lights. It feels, I don't know, like this feels like a romantic venue to me, or like, just a fancy place to have a meal, and kind of exclusive since it's on the top floor. But it's so nice to feel like still excited and still positive. I think part of it is the pacing. I think that if I had pushed to go faster, I probably would have burnt out on the whole thing. So just a reminder that you don't have to be complicated. You don't have to be big. You don't have to go fast. You can just kind of do it one room at a time and just let the ideas come to you and not stress. And you never know how far you can go until you just give it a shot. That's it for today's decorating adventure. If you liked this video, a thumbs up is a great way to let me know, and a subscription will keep you up to date on my latest shenanigans. If you want to hang out with me live, I stream on YouTube and Twitch on Thursday evenings and middays on Sunday. I hope you have a lovely day, night, time, wherever you are, whenever you are. And I'll see you next time.